Okay. And welcome to Paranormal Versus. I'm one of your hosts, Michael. There's Kell's in the house and Matt's in the studio.
Hi.
So how's everybody doing?
Great, apart from the internet messing up tonight. So it's like severely glitching here, there, and everywhere. Don't know why. So if I just completely freeze out tonight, you know why. So your show, Michael.
Yes, we're not kicking Kell out of the show.
No.
You can't get rid of us that easy. Come on.
Wouldn't want to. So, how are things in the UK?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. I think since the last show, we've had an aurora borealis appear down here, the Northern Lights. I know you guys in the States have had it as well, but it's never been this far south ever before. So Friday last week, we managed to capture some good pictures, both Kell and me. Just to make everyone aware, Kell's up in Newcastle, which is northern England, and I'm down south in a little town called Cheltenham, which is sort of southern England. So it's a good 260 odd miles between us. Occasionally up in Newcastle, they can see the Northern Lights. In fact, Kell and myself saw them 6 months ago, something like that, maybe slightly longer, by sheer chance. We were out trying to do an investigation. We went to this supposedly haunted spot up in Northumberland called Winter's Gibbet. Yep. And all of a sudden, these people started turning up, didn't they? And we were like, what's going on? Surely they're not, ghost hunting as well. And we went for a little wander. And then all of a sudden, somebody else appeared where we were. And we're thinking, this is a bit weird. And we started talking. And it was a lady from Holland, I think. I think she was Dutch. And she said, are you here to see the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis? And we both said, no, we didn't know that the Northern Lights were going to be showing tonight. So in a nutshell, we witnessed the Northern Lights 6 months ago, and it was quite impressive. But to see it again within a year, certainly down as far down south where I live, it was unbelievable. And we caught some good bits of video and photos on our phones. So so that's probably the highlight of the last 7 days so far. I've been busy getting my place packed up because I'll be moving shortly up north to join Kell. So I've been busy getting my place packed up. Kell's been busy doing all sorts of things, making jewelry and cake toppers and you name it, she's been doing it. So she's been very busy.
Cake toppers now, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to be making it's basically, obviously we're having a medieval wedding, so I'm going to be making a polymer clay sculpture of me and Matt in with medieval costumes to go on top of the cake.
Nice. You gonna put a moat in there too?
I'm going to put a what?
A moat around it too?
No, but I was going to stick a little glow-in-the-dark ghost in front of it.
There you go.
Little glow-in-the-dark ghost.
I'll make a paranormal.
So we've been sort of busy. Good idea.
Yeah, Paranormal Versus banner would be cool.
Promotion.
Yeah.
And what's be even funnier is have to take a photo of all three of us behind it.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. Yeah. So, Michael, how's your week been so far?
My week has been a little busier than normal, but in a good way. I had a show cancellation last week, and so took a night off for the first time in probably over a year.
Wow.
Wow.
I had my guest on Tuesday night reach out to me a couple hours ahead of time, not feeling well, and so I was like, okay. So it worked out that my guest from the prior week came on this week. So that was a blessing, and I had a great show and just been working on getting all the stuff ready for June and had a couple of reschedules for June and got those scheduled up. And so I'm excited for June's schedule. And Kel kind of knows about this, but not to the extent. But Glenda Dawson, who interviewed Kel and I for Paranormal Versus, is doing a show after ours. Actually starts in less than an hour, but I'm posting the link up for people to go and watch it. They so choose to. She is doing a show to promote fibromyalgia and lupus, and so I thought, hey, that's pretty cool that you're doing that. So I told her, yeah, we'll put a plug in for you. So go check it out. Glenda, do you remember? Is it Creature Creations or what? What is her Glenda Creations?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
But thank you, Eli. We appreciate that. But that's all the housekeeping that I have, and so I think it's time we bring up our guest, who I have had on the energy that surrounds us. She is amazing, has such an amazing story and experiences. So without further ado, I'm going to stop rambling and turn it over to our wonderful guest, Karin Wilkinson.
Hi, Michael.
Hello, Karin.
Hi, Kell, Matt, Michael. It's so good to see you again, Michael. I enjoyed our time together before so much. So I'm just so happy to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Well, we're glad you could come.
And happy to be here with all the people listening today too. That's so great. Thank you. Oh, what hat do you have on now?
Oh, it's I wear some QHS. It's quantum healing systems.
Oh, nice.
Devices, and so we did a meditation where we got a hat, and so it's got the Q symbol on it, the QI for their quantum healing.
Very good.
Cool.
Very cool. So are you going to the wedding, Michael?
I'm hoping to.
Good.
What do you mean hoping to?
Seriously planning on it, but I still got to get a couple of things worked out.
Good, good. Well, I look forward to pictures.
There'll be plenty.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Karin, can you tell me a little bit about your book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest? What's it about?
Yes. Oh, thank you, Michael. So my book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, chronicles my lifetime of experiences with non-human, what are commonly called alien entities. And it is written from more of a biblical lens to help describe and share my understanding of who and what these entities are. I share what happened to me, what they did to me, and how I was able to stop it and get out of it. And so the book isn't all dark. It's not all scary. It is actually, there are a lot of very positive, beautiful things that I write about in the book as well, because I've had some amazing, miraculous events happen alongside of what are very disturbing and uncomfortable events as well. So that, in a nutshell, is what the book is about, and written at the request of my good friend L.A. Marzulli, who is the publisher, and that is where the book can be purchased, at lamarzulli.net.
Wow. Brilliant. Yeah.
I'll definitely be buying that one.
Thank you. Would you like me to describe, or let me know what direction you'd like to take this, and we can talk about any part of it that you'd like.
It would be good if you could tell where it started for you, if that's okay.
Sure. So, and to give a little background, I never expected to be writing about this or talking about this or sharing this with anyone. Anyone who's been taken against their will like this, we know that it's very difficult to share these types of things, and B, as a society, it's also not received very well. People look at you as if you're crazy or psychotic. There are some out there who refer to it simply as psychotic delusion, demonic delusion. For myself and the hundreds of other people I've spoken with who have very similar experiences to my own, we can say that's absolutely not true. These are very real experiences, and we have the very real scars to prove it. And we know the difference between a dream and reality, and these things are reality. Because of a near-death experience, I had some PTSD therapy afterwards, and that's what gave me the tools to really process the lifetime of very difficult experiences and be able to then share them. Otherwise, it was just too difficult up until that point. I couldn't look at a UFO picture or a movie or read a book about it or anything like that. It was just so stressful for me to relive these experiences. And I always had these memories. I didn't go through any kind of therapy or regression therapy to remember. The memories that I have, I've always had. There are things that I have blocked. There are things that I just kind of repress and I don't want to fully remember because they are very difficult. And there are things that I only remember bits and pieces of, and I don't share those because I don't have a full memory, and so I don't feel that's helpful to anyone. So I only share the things that I know I have a very clear, full memory of. And so I felt led to L.A. Marzulli, and he interviewed me for his 4th movie in his UFO series on the abduction phenomenon. Once that movie aired, again, I was terrified. I thought people are going to come and find me and lock me up, or these entities are going to come and find me and do damage to me because I had been warned not to speak and I had been threatened. But I realized fear is not something that God gives you. Fear is something that the evil, the dark side gives you. And so I braced myself and pushed through the fear. And what I found was that people were so happy and excited to have someone to talk to, someone who had something in common with, that it was out there in public, and now we could have a conversation. And that's all people wanted, was just to talk, to be able to talk to someone who'd been through it too. And that's what led me to write the book. LA asked me to write it and to write the, more of what had happened. And so the book has allowed those conversations to continue to a much broader audience, whether it's through people reading the book or through the many different events that we go to and that I get the opportunity to speak at. And so that's been really wonderful, because we're trying to make it okay to have these conversations. It's okay. You're not crazy, and you can heal from this. Because as a woman, this title, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, refers to the fact that I was part of a breeding program. They were harvesting my eggs. They were taking fetuses from me at about the 3-month point. And the pain that comes with losing a child is unconscionable. It's incredible. And to be able to talk with others who've had that pain makes, and be able to heal together made every bit of this worth it. And so for me, that's the biggest part of this. And not to jump too far ahead, but as I was writing the book, the government came out with a report in 2022 here in the States, and they admitted that they knew about these missing pregnancies and that these were a common occurrence among people who had reported interactions with non-human alien entities, and they were very aware of it. And so I published that portions of that report in the book, and I give all that information. I think it's in chapter 7. And it also published a whole bunch of different ailments and issues that people who've been exposed have. I had everything from brain anomalies to reconstructive spinal surgeries to everything you can imagine that they couldn't explain. And it's all right there in the list. So there's a little bit of it helps to know, okay, we're not crazy. Even the government is saying, the powers that be, those in control are saying, yeah, these things are happening to a lot of people and we know about it. So we're not crazy. They're admitting that. And now with all the whistleblowers coming forward and things like that, it's just paving the way for more and more people to at least be able to talk about it and heal from it, because this is devastating, this type of thing that happens to anyone.
Yeah.
How did you feel when the book was released and it had been published and it was out there? Did it sort of take a big weight off your shoulders, or did it have the opposite effect and make you think, wow, what have I done?
It was a little of both. It was very cathartic. It was an emotional process writing it, but it was also very freeing. And honestly, once it was out there, it's out there. There's nothing I can do. I put it out there. And I was worried about what kind of reception it would get. And honestly, for the most part, it's been extremely positive. And I have spoken with, emailed with, met up with in person, just hundreds and hundreds of people with the same experiences as mine. I will get emails from people that say, I feel like you just wrote my life story. Not just one, multiple, and people come up to me at conferences saying the same thing. And so, it definitely was scary. It's scary to put yourself out there, especially with a story like this.
Yeah.
I'm not a crazy person. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a grandma. I've had, very responsible jobs in the tech industry over many years and, led a very responsible life. I'm not, I'm not a textbook, crazy person that everyone wants to put that label on someone who's been taken. And it's not the case. There are people who have had such trouble dealing with the trauma of these abductions that they do fall into drugs or alcohol or homelessness or other issues. But that doesn't mean that they are a crazy person and they're telling the story because they're crazy. They've had issues because of what's happened to them, and it's not their fault. So, I'm trying to right that wrong think about what's going on is really difficult in common society. But that's a great question. Yeah, it was an interesting, a lot of different feelings.
Wow.
And what I find was the most impactful when you were on my show was, we can say, the fetus was taken out, and everyone's like, well, that could have been, but that wasn't the part that made it the most impactful, in my opinion, of credibility. It was, you had documentation of being pregnant and then not being pregnant.
Right.
No signs of being pregnant. And I was like, wait, that we don't have that tech.
Right. And I can talk about that if you'd like. I can kind of go through what happened in those scenarios if you want.
Yeah, sure. Feel free to talk about whatever you feel.
Whatever you'd like. There's so much we could cover that, it's such a wide. The first time that I have documented proof of it, I was in my 20s and I got pregnant, and I was married at the time, so it wasn't like I couldn't get pregnant. I was very happy. I was very excited. It wasn't planned or anything, but, I went to the doctor and had everything verified. Back then they did blood tests and that type of thing. And you get to hear a heartbeat at some point, in that first 3 months. And And it was really, I was very excited. I got the prescriptions for my vitamins and, was going through morning sickness and all the normal things you do when you get pregnant. And in the end of the third month, I woke up in the middle of the night and I was spotting a little bit, but I hadn't lost anything. Nothing had come out of my body, but I had abdominal pain, very bad abdominal pain. And so my husband at the time took me to the hospital and went in, and they couldn't find a heartbeat. And so they did an ultrasound and they couldn't find a baby. So they said, well, we need to do a DNC. He said, do you think you lost the baby at home? I said, no, nothing came out, only what you see here. And they did a DNC, and they came back to me and said, ma'am, there's no fetal tissue in your uterus. There's nothing. Your uterus is clean. Are you sure you were pregnant? And that was probably the most difficult thing to hear, because I loved that baby already. And I knew I was pregnant. And as a woman, you know when you're pregnant, your body changes. You feel those things. And that happened over and over again, so it's terrifying because nobody believes you. And, what's the doctor going to say? They go in and they looking for the remnants of this pregnancy in your uterus, and there's nothing there. There's no sign that you were pregnant. Yet I still have hormones in my system, and so none of that makes sense, but they don't have good answers for you. So they just say, well, we don't know what happened. And they send you home. And you have to figure out how to deal with it on yourself. And I shared a picture with someone else who was doing an interview with me recently. She wanted a picture of what I looked like after that. And I had kind of forgotten this, but after that happened, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I probably weighed about 90 pounds of that. I looked like I was deathly ill. And that's the kind of stress that something like that will put on you. If I could have mourned that baby, known what it was, just gone through some of the normal processes that people get to go through, it wouldn't have been easier, but I would have actually had some process to go through. So I really feel for anyone who's experienced that. And I've been able to talk with so many women who've gone through this, and we've shared our grief and been able to get through it and understand, okay, I didn't do anything wrong. This was not my fault. I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose this. And I can heal from this, but it will always hurt. That will never go away.
When it was happening at the time in your 20s or whenever you said it was, did you know back then that was down to some kind of extraterrestrial intervention, or did you think it was something else?
No, I knew. They were still coming for me. They were taking me like they had my whole life from the time of my youngest memories. I didn't want that to be true. But they took me during one of the abduction experiences into a place that I had never been taken before. And it was a hallway that was very darkly lit. Everything there is very weird lighting. It was kind of a reddish blue lighting. And I could never tell where the lights were coming from. There weren't any like lights on the ceilings or anything. And this hallway had what looked like aquariums lining the hallway all the way up to the ceiling. And it was a tall ceiling. I'm not good with measurement in that respect, and I'm trying really hard to concentrate, but when it was taken, there's this thing that many of us encounter. We call it UFO brain fog. So you feel like you're kind of walking through molasses. Your thoughts aren't as clear as you want them to be. You can't speak as clear as you want to. You can't make sudden movements the way you would want to reach out and hit somebody or something. And so I'm trying really hard to concentrate on what's in these little tanks, and they look like fetuses, but I don't know what they are. Are they human? Are they animal? It's very hard for me to tell. And some of them look very human. And we get to the end where those tanks end and the hallway just goes on, and there are two doorways, one on either side. So they open the doorway to the right, and in this room is the size of a large closet. There's a woman on the floor, a human, and she is imitating childbirth, and she's holding a very strange looking baby. And I'm just like trying to take all this in, and the entities that were with me, I think it was a gray and a Nordic at that time, hand me a little baby, and they say, this is your baby. This is a good baby. Hold your baby. So I take this little baby and I hold it up to me, and it won't cuddle into me. It won't respond to me. And I'm just looking at it. It's very purple blue in color. A reddish kind of purple blue. It's hard to describe. And more red, purple. And its head and eyes look very large, but it's not opening its eyes at me. And it won't respond to me. And I'm like, what's wrong with my baby? And I know it's my baby. I just know. There's a mom instinct in me that was just like, this is mine. No, I'm keeping it. Also, that was also going through my head. I'm not letting this go. And I kept trying to cuddle it and hold it, and it wouldn't respond. And I'm getting very upset at this point. And they're like, it's okay. It's a good baby. It's a good baby. I'm like, no, what's wrong with my baby? I'm like, okay, I'm taking my baby home. And they're like, no, you're not, And they just, the next thing you know, they shut, because I was getting very, very upset and I was getting combative with them. So they just shut me down into, I guess, a sleep state. Because the next thing I know, I wake up, I'm back home. And I'm in my bed and I'm looking for this baby and I don't have it. And I am just devastated because I wanted that baby. I wanted to fix it. I wanted to help it. I didn't know what was wrong with it. I didn't know if it was human, if it was alien, if it was hybrid. Clearly it was hybrid. I mean, and so from that point on, I was desperate to have whatever children I had and get them to me. I want them. And I knew from my biblical teaching and the studies that I had done later in life that these were likely hybrids, and hybrids are not going to have the human qualities. And historically, hybrids have been very evil, for lack of a better word. They are not born. They don't appear to be born with any kind of a soul like we are, because they're not. It's, if you go back through history, not just Christian biblical history, but any of the history, whenever these kinds of things happen, there's a lot of conflict surrounding them. You look at Nephilim. So I'm getting around to Nephilim is what I'm doing. But I won't go down that road because that's a whole nother conversation, and that's like a 2-hour conversation. But so I had been asking God, just praying and praying. I want to see these children. I want these children back. But knowing in my heart that that's really not something I should be doing. There's probably nothing there for me. So one night, and it was only about 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. It wasn't very long ago. I woke up and there were 3 boys standing beside my bed. And I thought it was my boys that are my sons that I have now. I have a lot of kids. And I said one of my boys' names out loud. And then I realized as I'm focusing, because it's dark, it's the middle of the night, that, oh, wait, these are too short to be my boys, but they look like my kids. I see similarities. And so I go to hit my husband to wake him up and say, hey, look, what's going on? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, he is out cold. He will not wake up. I can't rouse him, which is typical. Even when I was little, when I would be taken, if there was anyone else in the room, they would be put into a state of such deep sleep that I could not wake them. And this was the same thing. So I turned back to the boys. There's 3 of them. They look like they're wearing gray hooded sweatshirts. Their skin looks very blue, kind of purple blue. Their eyes look very black. Now, the room is very dark, so I can't tell you if they were black-eyed kids, like they had the black eyes or not, because it was very hard to tell. And they were very short and stocky compared to my boys. My boys are tall and skinny. So, and so I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's you. I realized these are mine, right? I can see it. I can feel it. A mom knows her kids. And I just feel hate coming off of them. I just feel evil and this hate. And I'm like, what's wrong? Why are you angry with me? And they're speaking to me, but like mind speak.
Telepathy.
And so, yeah. And so they're like, you have to come with us. And I said, no, I'm not coming with you because, at this point I'd stopped the abductions and I'm not going back into that horrific, those horrific ordeals ever again. And they just keep saying to me, you have to come with us. You have to come with us. And I'm like, no, I'm not going with you. And finally, just kind of habitually, I say, no, in Jesus' name, no. And the second I say Jesus, they're gone. My husband sits straight up in bed and he's like, what and I'm just like, now you wake up, they're gone. But the evil that I felt from them was palpable.
Wow.
And I realized at that point, there was nothing there for me. There was no love there for me. They didn't feel about me the way I, as a mother, feel about my children. And I got that closure that I needed to know that these weren't human children. They didn't appear to have any kind of a soul. And, it's not my place to say whether they were redeemable or not, but that's between them and God, not me. I'm not a creator. I'm just a person that was created. So, but it was terrifying. And at the same time, I was just so grateful to have that closure. And I think, sorry, we're having a big storm here. And I think God allowed me to have that closure. And I was just so grateful for that. It was just such a blessing to have that, because then I knew, okay, I can let them go. I don't have to yearn for them. I have been blessed with beautiful children here. Some are mine, some are adopted. And I am so grateful and blessed to have them. And so for me, I got that closure, and I just hug and love on my children and my grandchildren every chance I get, knowing that, that's amazing. So anyway,
wow.
about that. I know that was a lot to lay on you in a short period of time. Sorry.
Yeah. So what do you think the aliens want? What's their end game?
Right. That's a good question. And I think it's a couple of different things. I believe that the aliens that we're dealing with, there are good and there are bad. There are good and there are evil. I have had interactions with very beautiful, good, angelic beings. And I write about that in the book. After my near-death experience, they had a very hard time bringing me out of surgery, and 2 angels showed up in the recovery room and helped me through. And it was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. That's an example of the good ones. The ones that are taking people, kidnapping children against their will, mutilating cattle, taking fetuses from women, taking sperm and ovum from men and women. I believe that these are the fallen angels of the Bible. You can call them angels or whatever. Angels kind of misnomer, but they're the B'nai HaElohim, the sons of God. And we know from the biblical texts and ancient texts across all different belief systems and countries and everything that when Satan fell and took a third of the angels with him. And the late Dr. Chuck Missler used to say, Satan's outnumbered 2 to 1 and he's building an army. And I believe that to be true today, because I've seen it with my own eyes and experienced it with my own eyes and my own physical body. And I believe that these hybrid entities are part of that. And I think the other part of it is to come and convince people that these are our benevolent space brothers and get people to rally behind them. The biblical texts tell us Satan will appear as an angel of light. He'll come and he'll just charm everybody. He'll come as a charming, beautiful man. And if you think about what we deal with today, if someone's coming to rob you or carjack you, or if someone is a mass murderer or rapist or whatever, they don't walk around advertising that. They fool you to get you into their presence. They lure you into that van with candy or a puppy if you're a child. They don't do it with showing their intent. And that's what we're dealing with here. Some very deceptive beings. And we are not equipped to deal with them. We don't have the strengths that they have. Having been exposed to them, I can tell you they can manipulate space, time, energy, and matter in ways that we can't understand. They are extra dimensional. They are interdimensional. They cross dimensions like we cross the street. They have the ability to manipulate us, to manipulate our thoughts and our feelings and our physical persons. So we have protection that we can call on Jesus for that protection. But if we call on them and invite them in, the spiritual realm is a very legalistic society. And we try to fit everything into this little space where we live on Earth, and as humans and as where we live. And everything doesn't fit into our little space. This is just where we are. But there's a whole lot outside of us that we don't understand, and that we're not equipped to fight in those spaces because we don't have those abilities. And that's where I caution people, when you're calling on these things or going out to see them, I caution people, what are you bringing into your life? What are you bringing into your family's lives? Do you know what this is? Do you know how dangerous it is? Do you know, what its abilities are, and how, and could this damage your friends, your families, your loved ones, your children. I personally won't put my kids in a snake pit, but we're outside with when there's a rattlesnake outside the door, I'm not letting the kids outside. It's just, there are a lot of dangers that people don't understand, because we kind of tend to think everything is like us and that we are the apex predator, and we really aren't. We're not at all. So I think that they want to just deceive.
Yeah. So are you saying a lot of these interdimensional beings, everything comes under that religious banner, and you're saying that most of them are actually fallen angels working under Satan, demons, if you like?
Well, I don't like the word religious in that, because I don't think that religion has anything to do with it. I think it's a creation banner. I think it falls under creation.
Yeah.
And we have a creator. We all have one divine creator, I believe. This is my belief system, and I don't expect anyone to believe the way I do. But I have seen it at work, and it has, and he has been there for me. My creator has been there and rescued me, and in the blink of an eye every time. And there are entities that choose the dark, and there are entities that choose to stay in the light. So it is really black and white when it comes to that. There is good and there is evil, and there aren't a lot of shades of gray in between.
Yeah.
So you going back to what you were saying before, how you wouldn't want to bring it into your family and that. Do you think it runs in families, like abductions?
Yeah. I do. And I think some of that is, there are a couple of different reasons. One, I think once they find a genetic material that they can work with, they want to continue to work with that genetic material. I think there is usually someone exposing that family or offering the permission within or associated with that family, giving the permission for those family members to be taken. So it says, it could be someone in a Masonic group or something like that, which was the case, possibly the case in my case. There has to be permission given, and then I had to be responsible to revoke those permissions to stop this from happening to me. And so, because it is a very legalistic society, and my friend Vicki Joy Anderson, who wrote a book called They Only Come Out at Night, The Dark Side of Sleep Paralysis, this is not my area of expertise, but she explains it very well and understands it extremely well. So I always refer back to her when I get into this part, because it is, there's a lot to it, and it is very real.
Yeah. And Karin, I'm curious.
Why do you think? Go, Michael.
Okay, I'm curious, because we're talking about genetic lines and influences, and there's a lot of talk about, like, the satanics do blood rituals. So do you feel like they're looking for certain bloodlines, and why would they need that?
Right. It all comes back to the blood. Everything comes back to the blood. Blood covenants. The blood is used to nurture fetuses outside the womb. Bovine blood can be used in place of human blood. Most people don't know that, but that's why there are a lot of these cattle mutilations. Blood covenants, blood sacrifices are very powerful and very strong things. And then blood types. Rh negative blood is missing the protective protein coating on the outside of the cell, which makes it easier to work with, manipulate, and easier to give. Someone with an Rh negative can O negative can donate blood to anyone. They can't receive it, but they can give, and that makes that a very valuable commodity. And then blood covenants also fall into play there. So it's a multifaceted thing when you start talking about the blood and the bloodlines and that type of thing. Yes.
That was strange. Something a bit weird with your sound was going on then. I don't know if it was just me, but the volume kind of went right down.
Oh, dear. We're having a pretty big storm, so it might have been that. Sorry. I'm hearing this like massive windstorm and stuff hitting the house and everything, so we might be getting a big hailstorm. I don't know, Michael, if you're getting that too, but
we're just getting thunder right now.
Oh, yeah? Okay. We get the wind, so I don't know what's going on up there, so it could be affecting my connection. Sorry about that.
So, Karin, have any of your children had any of these experiences as well?
Yeah, you know what? I will not speak about my children or family members, and I won't speak for them. But I will, so I won't speak specifically. But I will say, yes, it has followed in my family line before me and after me. But I have been able to stop that completely and stop it for them and show them how to stop it as well. Cool. So no one else there's no one any longer being taken or tormented or bothered at all.
That's good.
Yes.
That's a relief. That's a relief.
Yes.
Can I ask you another question as well? When you were abducted, if you want to call it that, or taken away, and you've got recollection of being on these spacecraft, do you remember any of the sounds that you heard? The noises, the ambient noises, that kind of thing. What did it sound like?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are a lot of different noises. The most common place that I was taken was underground, because we would get in these elevators that were very silent, and they would just go down and down and down. And then I would get in what I called the sideways elevators, because at the time vehicles were very loud in the 60s and 70s, and these were very silent, and they would go either side to side. Some would go up at an angle or down at an angle, and they had benches, but I didn't realize vehicles could be that silent. So it was some sort of high-speed transport, and those were very quiet. There would be often very low humming noises that would just very low vibrational hums. A lot of clicking type noises. They spoke almost always with just the mind speak to each other or to us, those of us who were there. And to speak to other abductees, because there were other humans and abductees there, was very difficult, because again, in that UFO brain fog kind of scenario, you're trying to talk, but it comes out so slow, like that, I was trying. So you're concentrating on forming the words so hard that by the time you're doing it, they're stopping you. So it's like giving them time to stop you from, doing these things. And we were threatened not to speak to the others there, and not speak to anyone about it outside of there. They were threatening me with killing my family. I write about that in the book as well. Yeah. And as a child, I know now that's something that's commonly done when children are trafficked. They'll threaten them, well, we're going to hurt your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister. And that's the same type of thing that they did with me. And I wasn't going to be responsible for someone in my family being harmed or killed. No. As a little kid, I'm like, okay, fine. So I just kind of split. I left. I had a disassociated from it. When I was about 6 years old, they found me huddled up in the corner of a bathroom stall. And I wouldn't move. I wouldn't get out. I wouldn't speak. They had to call my mom to come get me, and she coaxed me out of the bathroom, and I just kept saying, I don't want them to take me. I don't want them to touch me. She had no idea what was going on. I didn't have vocabulary. I couldn't say who they were. I didn't know that they were gray aliens, that they were reptilian, that they were insectoid, that they were non-human alien entities. As a little kid, they were strange, they were scary, and they were taking me, and I didn't know where they were taking me. So there was no vocabulary for me to help. I just would try to describe it, and it made no sense to anyone. So she took me to the doctor, and he looked me over and said, whatever has happened to her, she's very young, she will forget. So they assumed, they just couldn't figure it out. They didn't understand what I was talking about. That was a common response in the 60s and 70s. Unlike today, they probably would have taken more time to try to figure out what was going on. But even if they did, they wouldn't have gotten anywhere, because there were no human beings in my school or elsewhere bothering me. And maybe it would have caused more problems for my family, and they hadn't done anything to me. So I don't know. That's the point at which I realized no one was going to be able to help me. It didn't matter what I did. I was stuck in this scenario, and I was helpless. And that's when I just split off from it, and I kept regular life here and that stuff over here. And when they would take me, I would just let my mind go somewhere else and just pretend I wasn't even there. And I think that's why I remember so much of it, because when you're not engaging, they're not blocking. And that's the one thing I've found with other people who have memories like mine, because not everyone remembers. And I don't remember every time, but those might have been the times when I was really engaging, going, get the heck out of my room, get the heck away. I'm not, maybe it were combative evenings where I would remember waking up just being combative and then nothing else. So, I think that that's possibly a part of why I do have the memories that I have. That I was able to just break. I mean, your mind does things to protect you. when something is so traumatic, the human mind has just, God has built these things into us to help us protect us from these things. And I think that that's what was happening.
Do you have any memories of other experiences that were there when you were there?
No.
Other people that were on the craft or in the underground base or whatever, wherever you were taken?
I mean, I remember seeing the people and everything, but I haven't. The interesting thing is there have been a few people I've spoken with where we're like, I know you. Why do I know you? And so I've had some really strange occurrences, and then we can tell almost the same incidents. So I can't say for certain, but it seems as if the more I'm getting into this and the more people I'm meeting people I probably met there.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like we've known each other for a long time. And it's indescribable why I know what I know about these people and how they know what they know about me and how we can describe the exact same scenario separate from each other. So I think that probably has something to do with it, but I don't have a lot of very clear memories of seeing other people outside of those, but there were a lot of people there that I did see.
Yeah. Wow. There was something else I was going to ask you as well. I mean, you said before a lot of the communication that was done, it wasn't verbal communication. It was mind. It was almost telepathy.
Yeah.
Could you intercept other people's thoughts at the time as well, or was it as if every single word that was sent to you was at a certain frequency that only you could hear it and nobody else could?
That's a really good question. Yeah, when it's directed towards me, it's very clear. When it's not directed towards me, it's fuzzy. Okay. So I could concentrate really hard to try to figure out what they were saying to each other. But it wasn't as clear as when it was directed towards me. And I had what I called my handler, just an entity that was always with me. And for him, it was like an imprint. Like, you know how they talk about how like a bird knows its mom, it imprints on somebody right away. We had this really wild imprint where I always kind of knew where he was. And so I'd be brought into this large area sometimes. And it was like walking into a huge airport stadium, something like that. And there's just lines of people going all over the place. And everyone seemed to, some people were being led to where they needed to go. Some people knew where they needed to go. Most of us were in kind of a zombie state, just again, that UFO brain fog. But I always knew, I could always feel where he was and go to him. Because, see, as a handler, I was groomed by this man. He at me, I felt safe and protected. I had a great deal of Stockholm syndrome with this guy.
Right.
Or entity, because he appeared as human. Most of the time. And in others I have since spoken to have told me similar experiences where they also had one particular entity that was always with them as well, especially when it's like a lifelong thing where you had been taken for, years and years and years on end.
Do you think you had some kind of implant, some kind of tracking device, or do you think it's deeper than that? Do you think it's more of a soul connection that with this thing?
I think there's some sort of a that, like you said, like a connection. It's like an imprint that happens when you're nearby. But otherwise, yes, I had an implant. It was in my elbow and it came out. Wow. And it went down. It's a really weird scenario how it came out. It started to come to the surface of my elbow, and I cut my elbow, got tweezers, grabbed it out. I mean, it was difficult to get out, right? And then this was after the abductions that I had stopped them. So I think it wasn't useful to them. I wasn't useful to them at that point anyway. So they weren't, maybe it was like turned off, for lack of a better word. But as soon as I got it out with the tweezers, it literally popped out of the tweezers like it was acting on its own and rolled itself down the sink. And there was no reason for it to do that, but it went straight down, like on its own.
Almost like a self-destruct kind of thing. Mission Impossible.
It looked like a half the size of a grain of rice, and it was clear, but you could see something kind of black in the middle. And it was solid, but the outside was spongy, and it went. like on its own.
Wow.
Yeah, like it was
Wow.
just, and I was just like, oh, I didn't even think that, the sink was there. Like, I never expected that to happen. I just thought I was going to yank this thing out. I didn't care where it went. I just wanted it out of me. But if there's one somewhere else, I have no idea. I don't know.
Before you had these experiences, and you say you had an implant, would this implant make itself more prominent to you prior to having one of your experiences? Would it almost work its way to the surface slightly in your body?
That's a good question. I never noticed that. I didn't even know it was in my elbow until it did come all the way towards the surface, and I realized that something was trying to, it was right there at the surface. And so I have no idea. I never really paid attention.
Yeah. No, the reason I ask is I know someone who's had a similar kind of, who has similar kind of things behind her ear. One of her ears.
Yeah, a lot of people have them in their ear. Yeah.
Left ear.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have I do not believe I have anything in my ear, thank goodness. But I always wondered if there's something in this one because I've got this strange stuff here. But I don't know. But I'm not worried about it, anymore because I know I've stopped it. I know they have no power over me, and I've been able to prove that over and over again. So I no longer worry about it. If there's something in there, then it's just a useless piece of something that's in my body, but it's not hurting me, and they can't use it against me anymore. So to have that level of faith and understanding that I'm safe is the most wonderful feeling in the world. And I want that for everyone who's ever been taken, to know that they can just be safe and not have to be scared anymore. Because being afraid that's just no way to live. And I understand it. I mean, I couldn't look out the window at night. I couldn't walk through the house alone at night, without being terrified. I mean, it just, that terror just stays with you, for a long time.
Yeah. Sure.
I actually have an interesting question for you, Karin. Talking about implants and how they don't want them found. When I had metal placed in my leg after surgery, it always would appear on whoever was in front of me or behind me in the TSA scanners, body scanners, but never on me. And so I wonder if that could be because I had an implant nearby that it was projecting it to a different person so it wouldn't be discovered.
That's pretty wild, Michael. I don't know, but I've got a lot of metal in my body, and I've never had anything go off in a TSA scan. And I've got tons of metal in my body. I mean, I'm mostly recyclable at this point. So I'm probably more valuable for what's in my body than anything else. So we need to look into that, Michael. Let's have an offline chat about that. That's something to think about.
Definitely. And yes, you are valuable.
God bless you, Michael. I love you. You're such a wonderful person, Michael. I hope everybody knows that.
Well, thank you.
So earlier on, you were talking about your handler. What do you think his role was during that time, and how did you know he was a he? Because a lot of people they think of aliens as being these kind of asexual creatures that aren't male or female.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
First, I'll back up a little bit to what aliens are, because I think a lot of people get this image of like little Marvin the Martians walking off a spaceship and they all look the same. Aside from the short grays that they send to pick people up, which I believe are avatars, and that's a whole nother conversation that we'll probably have to save for another time when we get together. But they're all different. For the regular like grays, the taller ones, they all look different. They have different faces, different heights, different weights, different facial expressions. There are reptilians, and they all look different. There are ones that have the insectolan type look, and they all look different. Nordics, they all look different, just like humans do. These entities are not all cookie cutter. They don't look the same. I knew that my handler was male. He always appeared to me as a man in the early days. So he looked military, like a real short buzzed haircut, very tall, very muscular. And the purpose of him was to provide me with someone to let me know what I was supposed to do or where I was supposed to go or make sure I was going where they wanted me to go. It was a very organized system, and to keep an eye on me, and because I was there so often, and I have no idea how often I was there, but gave me a sense of comfort. Like, okay, as long as I'm around this guy, I'm going to be safe. Like I was terrified of the other entities, like especially the ones that had the insectoline look to them, or the ones who they kind of had their faces were so long, and I was really terrified of those. I mean, terrified of all of them, but when I was little, but so I felt safe with him. He was, he shifted his shape. There were times I would see him and certain times, and you could tell it was like fuzzing out, like a screen fuzzing out and something changing behind him. And so I told him, I want to see what you really look like. I'm not afraid of you. I've been around you for how long now, and he was a reptilian, and not like some gross lizard or snake type looking thing, more human than non-human looking, beautiful in appearance. I describe him in detail in the book. His skin was kind of like scales, but it was more like bejeweled, like opalescent almost. He was beautiful. So yeah, his primary purpose was keeping me in line, keeping track of me.
Yeah.
I was where I need to go. When he was with me, I'm sure he probably had 1,000 other humans that he was a handler for as well.
Did he have a name? Did he have a name that you used to call him, or?
We had an imprint, so it was like a feeling more than a name. But as a little kid, I called him Toby.
Oh, okay.
But that wasn't his name. But I had just kind of given him that name. And I don't even remember why I gave him that name. I can't remember why, but I do remember, that. But otherwise, he didn't really have a name. It was like I said, it was an imprint, so they didn't use names. It's so hard to describe because we don't do it that way. But it's like, just like we all have fingerprints, they're all different, and so each one of them was unique, and I knew who he was and where he was all the time.
Yeah, sure.
It's just hard to describe. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Do you think, did he have some kind of aura that you picked up on when he was around, and you could actually feel his presence even when he wasn't close to you?
Yeah, I don't think I'd call it an aura, but I definitely could feel his presence. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Wow. So what do you think about the recent disclosure and everything else like that's been going on? Do you think it's actually a false flag, or do you think it's actually them bringing out the fact that alien abductions and stuff like that happen?
Yeah, I think that is a kind of cover your backside move on their part, because I don't think they're going to be completely in control of when this comes out and how. I mean, you look at how we are able to share right now, and you are across the world from me,
Yeah.
And we are speaking. And if you saw something right now, you could share that picture with me instantly. People are seeing things and sharing them before anyone can get control of that. Plus, these entities, they're going to do what they want to do, and our government can't control that. This is outside their ability to win that battle, if there is one. I think what they're doing is they're releasing just enough information and then pulling back, so that when the time comes, they're going to be able to say, well, we have been telling you with caution. We haven't lied. And so they're giving just enough information to cover their backside, but not enough to offer full disclosure until they absolutely have to. Because you look at the whistleblowers. Okay, now they've come forward and they've said, yeah, we have crashed craft. We have non-human biologics. Yes, Roswell was real. Yes, the Majestic 12 was real. Yes, we've released all of these documents. Yes, we know about the unexplained pregnancies. Yes, we know about all the anomalous brain injuries and other injuries. And then the next thing they release is this big report in March. It came out in February, but it was actually released in March. This massive report, right? And all this does is say all of these are disproven cases. Why would you do that? You didn't take on any of the things that we know are true. You didn't take on any of the cases that we know the whistleblowers covered. You took on all the cases that had already been disproven and reiterated it. Sounds like it was written the night before because somebody forgot about it, and put it out there. So it's not disproving anything, but it's also not sharing anything. But it makes
It's trying to
look
throw
like
everyone
it's
off the scent,
there.
isn't it?
Yeah. So it's just another, false.
False
It's
flag.
just another cover. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. There's nothing there. They haven't actually, as I said, if you're going to talk about something, then talk about it. But they went and talked about something completely different. So it makes no sense.
So do you think that the government are in cahoots with the alien beings, or do you think that they've got no control over them?
Yeah. I think it's both. They're definitely working together. And I saw humans working side by side with these entities my whole life. They were always humans there working. But I know for a fact that they can't control them. There are agreements made, and those agreements must be kept because it's a very legalistic society. But what about the ones they haven't made agreements with? They're not making agreements with all of them. So they are in cahoots with them. They are working together. They are trading people and animals for technology and things like that. But at the same time, it can get out of control very, very quickly because as humans, we just don't have the abilities that they do. So they'll have the upper hand whenever they want it.
Yeah. And Karin, when you talk about humans being side by side with them, do you feel like there are actual humans there, or would they be like the clones from the secret programs that may be being utilized to help make you at ease?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have no idea, no way to know if some of them were cloned or some of them were just normal humans. What I can tell you is some of them absolutely were just normal humans, and I don't think they intended to get involved in this. If you think about having a job like a high clearance job, and you're like, now you have, we're going to give you this special project and you get this special clearance and you're very excited, you're getting a bump in pay and you're getting all this special, security clearance. And then they put you into this thing and you're like, oh shoot, what is this? Right. But while I was there, they utilized me and other abductees to warn them not to talk, or this is what will happen. You don't want this to happen to your wife, your girlfriend, your daughter, your friends, your family, your loved ones. They used us to show what would happen. And it was horrifying. And I write a little bit about that in the book as well. So those people certainly weren't clones if they had to be coerced into not speaking about what they were witnessing.
Right. And we're actually over the hour a little bit. Are
Oh dear,
you?
yeah. I'm going to have to, I'm beginning to fade a little bit with my pain level. So yes, I'm going to have to wrap it up. I'm sorry, guys. I wish this was not happening, but.
Can I get one more question in, Karin, if that's okay, quickly before we have to go? I just want to touch a little bit on your experiences with alien craft and UFOs or UAPs or whatever we call it now. You say that you've actually been inside and flown some of these craft. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I wrote a bit about that as well. And I don't like to glamorize it because that kind of makes it sound like, oh, this is fun and something everyone wants to do. But they were always trying to do things to keep me on board, to keep me from rebelling or stopping them, to make it seem like this was something I wanted to do. So when I was taught how to pilot these craft, these were very small and they all kind of, they peeled off the end of a larger craft, like a bubble off of a bubble wand kind of. And there's a chair that I would sit in, and there was always another entity on the craft behind me in a similar chair. Saloon. These craft are alive, for lack of a better word. That's the only way I can describe them. They're like a living entity. And when I would sit in the chair would literally form around me and hold me in place. And everything I did was with my brain, the thoughts, and with slightest movements. These craft are alive. They move with you. They move for you. They move onto you and away from you. And they can be damaged just like any other living creature can be damaged. From my experience, the ones that I experienced, I'm not saying there aren't other types out there. I'm just saying the ones that I was in contact with, they're very much alive. Don't ask me how that works. I don't understand it myself. It's so far outside of what we, but I learned a long time ago not to try to fit everything into my little, again, human box that we live in. Everything doesn't fit into my perspective of reality. And even just because I can't understand it doesn't mean it's not what's happening.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. And what's interesting, Karen, is when I drive, I never was paying attention, but I started paying attention when I became aware of all the stuff that's going on. That my hand, I would go like this if I was turning right, tilted forward if I was going faster.
Oh my God.
And it's like I was using slight little hands, and occasionally I'd be like, look like I'm punching in a code or something. And it's like, yeah. And so I started realizing I must have flown something because I'm reacting as if I'm in a ship.
You've got some muscle memory from it. Yeah. That's wild. That's wild. For me, my hands were always like into like the side of the chair, and those egg chairs, those kind of egg-shaped chairs. That's kind of
like 60s retro things.
Yeah, so you're really in it, and then it kind of comes over my hands, and so everything is just slightest movements. It sounds like you have muscle memory. That's wild, Michael.
Yeah,
it was very wild.
Well, we're definitely going to have you on again at some point because there's still a load of questions that I haven't even got to cover.
Yeah, we've only touched on a tiny bit. Yeah.
Well, let's schedule the next part. I'd love to come back. You guys are just a dream to be with, and I've enjoyed every minute being with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone in the chat room and for everyone that's watching. So, Matt, how are you going to send us out?
I'm just going to say, if anyone wants to buy Karen's book or find out a little bit more about Karen, or even try and get in touch with Karen, if they're fellow experiencers that have gone through a similar kind of thing, how would they go about it?
Yes, I think I have it on the screen here. If you can go to my website, which is my name, KarinWilkinsonAuthor.com, there's a contact page, and please contact me that way. I am on social media, Facebook and Instagram under my name as well. But that's probably the most difficult way to get in touch with me because there's so much that floods those messages, those direct messages, that it's hard for me to find the real stuff in there. So reach out to me through the website. It'll go right to my inbox and my mail, and then I will get to read it. The book, you can find links to purchase the book through my website. It will take you to lamarzulli.net. The book is only available exclusively at lamarzulli.net or where I am in person, which you can find on the events page on L.A. Marzulli's site until my events page is back up, which is not up right now. So if you go look for it, it won't be there. I'm sorry. But we are getting my website back to where it needs to be. Excuse me. So yes, lamarzulli.net. We usually have some specials going on online. I know he's got 2 specials with my book right now where you can buy it and choose to either receive his UFO disclosure book or another book, and I can't remember which the other one is, with mine for the price of one. So you kind of get a buy one, get one. So if you go to his website, you'll find those specials. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me on my website. I love to hear from people. I will get back to you as soon as I can. I'm a little behind right now. So if you're waiting for a response, I am so sorry. I will get back to you soon, though.
Can I just ask, can you get your book? Can we buy your book in the UK?
We can have it shipped to you. It's a little more expensive right now. I'm working on getting it on Kindle, so y'all can get it that way. That'll be a lot better. So eventually someday, it'll be on Amazon too, but right now it's there. But you and I'll talk about that separately, and I'll make sure we get books to you guys. So
thank you very much.
But yeah, you can get it to UK. Like I said, it's just a little more expensive for shipping. I'm so sorry about that. That's out of my control because it's all with my publisher. But I will help get them over to you guys, for sure.
Thank you very much.
Sharon, I'm looking at the L.A. Marzulli site, and it's you buy the stolen seed and you get the UFO disclosure 70-year cover-up exposed free.
Right. Or further evidence, I think, is the other one. You can also get further evidence for free. You kind of pick which one you want. Is that still up there? I don't know.
The further evidence comes with the UFO disclosure. I think.
Oh, okay. So that's
changed that one.
Okay. Well, good. That's a great deal to get those two together. I usually don't have it here to show you, but yeah. Oh, yeah, it's this one. Yeah, this book is the one that he's giving away. Oh, this is amazing. It's got so much good information in it. It's just a really good primer for anyone interested. And a good introduction to L.A. Marzulli's work as well. He's got an amazing volume of work out there. I think 30 movies and 15 books or something like that. So
wow.
Yes.
Highly recommend checking out his stuff.
Definitely.
And you can stream online, so you don't have to have it shipped. If you're in the UK, you can stream that way.
Cool.
Brilliant.
Okay. Well, thank you, Karin.
Yes,
thank you guys so much. You guys have been a dream to be with. I look forward to coming back soon. Thank you.
We'll definitely sort that out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, should we close the show? Is it time to close out the show, do we think?
I think so.
Yeah.
Go for it, Michael. Cue the music.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.